Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Amateur Hour Sports for today's Raptors Happy Hour live stream. It's Wednesday, middle of the week, and we are out here ready to go. Ready to give you some Toronto Raptors content, mixed in with maybe a little bit of general NBA content as well. Back at it for the short week this week. No stream on Monday. We're back for Wednesday, October 15th. Monday was a holiday. It was Thanksgiving. I didn't have any Thanksgiving plans, so I would have streamed likely if it wasn't for the Blue Jays, first of all, having a game at 5 p.m., which is the normal start time for these amateur hour sports Raptors Happy Hour streams, which go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so long as there's not something else like Thanksgiving going on at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So 3 times a week we're here, plus we do watch-alongs for Raptors games, plus we do bonus videos throughout the week. That means that you should subscribe to keep up to date with all this great content. Also, make sure hit that like button to get us started, everybody. But I was also for that game too. I was at the game. So that's great because I got to experience a Blue Jays playoff game in person for the first time in my life. Bad because they got cranked. They got smoked. It was 10-3. At the very least for myself and anyone else who was in attendance for that game, at the very least, there was an element of the game. There was like a portion of the game where the vibes were fantastic, and that was great. Here are my seats. So I got cheap seats. Granted, I wasn't shelling out like the tons of money for these. I got the cheapest tickets I could find. I got them on retail pricing, so I didn't pay resale. So I was happy just to be there. I didn't care. I've never found myself unhappy with a seat at the Rogers Center, so that remains to this day. I wasn't unhappy with my seat here, but yeah, I was pretty far back. But at least the Jays went down 3-0. If you don't know, the Jays went down 3-0 in the first inning to a 3-run home run. There was a very bad call on the first at-bat of the game, which should have been a strikeout. That player, Randy Arozarena, eventually scored on that home run. So maybe the game is different, but in the end, the Jays got fucking spanked, so it didn't really matter. But at least, getting to my point, the Jays made it 3-2 after the first, and it was 3-3 after the second. So vibes were up after the second inning, thinking that, we made the comment, we're going to do this today. But, yeah, it was brutal from that point onwards. Not a lot of hits for the Jays beyond the second inning. The Mariners thoroughly deserve to win that game. If it's it's always bad to go down 2-0 series. It's even worse when you are the home seed and you lose both your home games to start the series. And it is even worse when it is a 2-3-2 playoff format. So now the Jays have to play 3 games on the road, and they have no choice but to win 2 out of those 3 road games rather than being able to split the road game, come back home for game 5, and get a win there. There's good and bad to, the 2-3-2 format. The good is, you come back home for the 2 most important games of the series. The bad news is you got to get there. In the end, you want home field. And in the end, you got to take care of business on home field. And the Jays did not do that. Therefore, this is the position that they are in, down 2-0 in the series. Yeah, brutal. Gregory in the chat, one of our amazing 12 months members, says the ump missed a strike 3 call the first. Yes, exactly. That would have made a difference. The ump was very bad throughout the game. Something I noticed during the game, the ump was throwing the ball back to the pitcher a lot, like when it got fouled off, which they typically don't do. They just give it to the catcher and they do it. And the catchers kept going, like Cal Raleigh and Alejandro Kirk kept going to grab the ball, and the ump would just go to the side and, whirl it back to the pitcher. Seemed like a little bit of an ego trip, but from what I heard from social media, the umpire had a very poor game calling balls and strikes. So it wasn't just that play. And again, it's not like the Jays lost 3-2 and that was the run. Like, the Jays lost 10-3. So I understand there's momentum shift. Who knows? Maybe Savage gets the first out of the game there on a strikeout, and he's feeling better. He has a better performance. He was okay, but he has a better performance from there. Who knows? But in the end, can't control that. What they could control, they got spanked 10-3. So again, I can't feel too aggrieved. Is what I'm trying to say there. But very hopeful for Game 3 tonight. Obviously, I mean, obviously, it's not a must win, but it's a must win. As was game 2, but you're in a hole. You got to win game 3. Give yourself a chance to split the next 2. But going down 3-0, Mariners get two games at home to wrap up the series. Yeah. And what's even worse about it for the Jays is they had the big pitching advantage in games 1 and 2. The Mariners had to use 3 starters in their game 5 against the Detroit Tigers. They had to go into their high leverage arms in the bullpen in all 5 of the games. Bazardo, I think his name, played all 5 games of the divisional series, and he played game 1 against the Jays. So they were hurting on the bullpen. They were hurting on the arms. The Jays gave them an out, let them use lower leverage players in this game. First of all, and second of all, the Jays they just had the advantage pitching wise in both. Game 1, they couldn't get hits. They only got 2 hits. Game 2, I mean, they just couldn't keep the Mariners away from crossing home plate. So Mariners deserve the advantage here. It's up to the Jays to make it right, and we'll see tonight. Hopefully, we're celebrating that one. Speaking of tonight, as much as the Jays are playing, are the Jays playing today? Yeah. As much as the Jays are playing tonight at 8:08 p.m., the Raptors also have a game tonight at, I think it's 7:30. Yes, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. They are away at the Boston Celtics this one. Unfortunately, I won't be able to stream for this one. I play soccer on Wednesday nights for the time being. Therefore, I am playing tonight and will be away for this game against the Celtics. Also, the Jays are on. I may not have streamed anyways. A decision will have to be made on Friday in regards to the Blue Jays schedule and the Raptors schedule, because the Raptors had their preseason finale on Friday against the Brooklyn Nets, but the Blue Jays also have a game on Friday. So I'll make a decision there if the series is still going at that point. Big shout-outs to 905 Yada, re-upping on the membership. Welcome to the All-Star, it says. But yes, 905 Yada, look at that lovely 2-year badge. I think closing in on the 3-year badge as well. Thank you so much again, 905 Yada, for your support over the seasons, and looking forward to another great one this season. Couple great members in the chat here. We'll keep it moving, guys. Stream schedule is a little bit sporadic right now. I'll finish up the soccer season. It'll be a little bit cleaner, but soccer season, Blue Jays, Thanksgiving, kind of made this preseason a little bit tricky, but hopefully dialed in for the new season after a couple weeks. Maybe it's the first regular season game as well because it's a Wednesday. Anyways, we'll keep it moving. 2 months away from 3 years. That's fantastic. I mean, time flies. Thank you so much for all the support. I'm so happy to have you and many other people along for this content journey, including the switch of content here. Like I said earlier, doing streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Used to do more predominantly videos. I've actually really enjoyed the shift. I've really enjoyed the shift to streams. I know the viewership hasn't been as high as some of the videos. I'm okay with that. The people who like the content are here. I really appreciate you guys supporting me. Make sure you guys have hit the like to help spread the news to more people. But I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed not having the morning grind and rushing all the time. I feel like my days are a lot less stressful and constricted time-wise, and I just get to finish the day talking some hoops, talking some Raptors. I feel like I've really enjoyed this switch so far, so hopefully it can continue throughout this season. Hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the more streaming content. I appreciate, again, everyone for rocking with me. Here's what we got so far from the Raptors in preseason. Let's get into it, really, because the title of the stream, what the Raptors preseason, has already told us. Well, it has already told us that, at least the last 2 games, we're capable of making some late comebacks and winning late and getting over the line late. We had a game winner from Olivier Sarr against Washington on Sunday. We had a game winner from Jonathan Mobo against the Boston Celtics on Friday. Friday was funny because the Raptors were playing. I really mentally, leading up to that Friday, I had made plans for myself mentally that Friday night. And then I went, the Raptors are playing, streaming that. And then when the Raptors game wasn't good and it was bad basketball, and all their starters were resting, and they were down by like 20 points at half. I kind of made the conscious decision at that point. I'm ending this after the third quarter. I want to, there's something I would really like to be doing right now. I'm fine to watch the Raptors, but also I'm not fine to watch them if they're going to rest all 5 starters and not play well and get beat up by the Boston Celtics in their own building. They made it 10 points after the third quarter, and then I went, you know what? I've mentally decided I'm ending the stream here, and then lo and behold, the Raptors end up coming back to win the game, and it would have been a lot of fun to see on the stream. I don't really have any regrets because I did enjoy my night, but it was a mistake for sure to end that one early. So apologies for that one. Apologies to the people that were asking me to hang around, but. Regular season game, I wouldn't have done something like that. Preseason, a little bit more leeway. I think it's fair. But like I said, 3 wins. Had that first one against the Denver Nuggets where they completely dominated the turnover battle and still lost. They had the one against Sacramento Kings where they played well. They went to Boston where they didn't play well but made a late comeback with no starters available to play they rested all 5 starters. And then I actually haven't watched back this Washington Wizards game. I'll be completely honest, just going off of some highlights and going off of the box score from this one a little bit. But it was a win for the Raptors. Again, 2 more games upcoming in preseason for Toronto. What have we really learned? Well, as far as like the team, it's tough to really get a lot of major takeaways from it. I think that like some of the takeaways that we're going to get are from, first of all, like offensive creation. It's still a little bit evident that the offensive spacing isn't quite where we would like it to be. It's still quite clear that that's going to be a challenge for the Raptors to face throughout the early parts of the season. Like, there just isn't quite enough floor spacing on this team, and there's a lot of reliance on certain players to give them that floor spacing. So if like some of those guys just aren't quite showing up, the Raptors are in a quite a big hole from a spacing standpoint. Like, a lot of the onus is going to be on Grady Dick, who's been okay in preseason, had some moments that are good and had some moments that are bad. Probably more bad than good, to be honest. Jacoby Walter, a lot of pressure on him. He was great in preseason. Great in summer league. Hasn't really followed that up into preseason. A lot of it's on Emmanuel Quickley, who's had, same thing as Grady Dick, like a up and down preseason, mostly down, I'd say. And on a little bit of Scottie Barnes, who has been hitting them. And Mamu Kelishvili had a great start to preseason, but it's kind of tapered off, especially from a 3-point shooting standpoint. So I think that's the key thing that we're still trying to figure out on that side of the ball. It's just not quite there for the Raptors. Now, where we do see where this kind of identity is being created is surely on the defensive side of the ball. The Raptors want to be more of a defensive-first type of team. I'm all for that. They're going to rely on forcing turnovers. I kind of want to see a little bit more crashing the glass. Like, okay, great, let's manufacture more possessions and turnovers. Well, let's also manufacture even more getting offensive rebounds. I think that'd be helpful. Having Jakob Poeltl would make that a lot easier. He's still out. I don't even know what's going on there, but yeah, it's still a team that is going to struggle a little bit from an offensive standpoint. I charge my phone, but at the very least, like, there's some upper tier. There's some upper tier talent the Raptors can rely on a little bit, which we're gonna get into in a second here. I do want to go a little bit further in on Scottie Barnes as we progress through the stream. I do want to go a little bit further in on Brandon Ingram as well and kind of dedicate some more time to those guys. And at the end of the stream, I actually want to go through the entire roster from preseason so far and do my stock up, stock down on every player. Has their stock gone up? Has their stock gone down? From what we've seen so far, we're going to go through all 21 players on the Raptors roster and we're gonna get that done. So it should be some fun as we progress through the rest of the stream. About 42 minutes or so to go there. Let's see what's up to the people in the chat. I haven't done that yet. I shouted out the amazing members we got here. Gregory and 905 Yada. We also have some amazing people in the community joining us as well. In SP, we have Q-Man, and we have Rinner1, Raptor Champs, back again, and One Take, 416. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. SP says it's told us we're hiding our true game until everyone's healthy. I don't think so. The Raptors are not in a position to be holding back. Like, we have a lot of things to work on. We have a lot of work to do. So absolutely right now the focus should be on getting better at working on our game and polishing our game. We are absolutely not in a position to be holding stuff back. So I kind of disagree there. Also, for the people when like Barnes missed that Boston game at home, who are saying like, they want to get a look at other guys. We kind of know what Scottie Barnes is. I mean, I was kind of disagreeing. Like, Barnes still has quite a lot to prove, and Barnes still has quite a lot that we need figured out on the offensive side of the ball. Like, I still want to get a good look at him. I don't think Barnes is a guy that can just be kind of sitting out. I mean, look, like, you want to get a look at the bench, sure, that's fine. But like, Barnes is not. Barnes needs to polish his game a little bit more. I think these reps are important for a player like him. And also, can we like discuss it a little bit further? That Friday game against Boston at home, like, the Raptors fan base is fantastic, and like a Raptors preseason game probably had a better crowd atmosphere than Brandon Ingram would have gotten in New Orleans at a regular season game. Like, the Raptors fan base is fantastic, and people made trips to get to that game. People spent good money to get to that game against the Boston Celtics. And I know, just a hazard of buying NBA tickets is star players may not play. You may not get to see the player you wanted to see. But to rest every single starter for a home game was a ludicrous decision by the coaching staff. Like, just ridiculous decision to make. There's been plenty of away games. There was the away game against Washington. There's the away game coming up tonight at the time of this stream against the Boston Celtics. It really was egregious to withhold every single starting player when there's so many fans that wanted to see it. I'm not saying don't rest all the starters because you want to get a look at the bench. I think that was a good idea. But to do that for a home game, I thought was really poor decision making. I know, like, the team comes first, you got to worry about the crowd later, but like, let's have a little bit more respect for those people who did make the effort and pay the money to get there. I thought that was a really bad look for the team there to do it in that game. I would have been really upset to have gone out to that game and, still an entertaining game, still see the Raptors, but to not see the Stars, I would have been pretty disappointed there. Q-Man says, another W in the books for tonight. Let's hope so. Get the vibes going. Wasn't it a couple of years ago when, like, the Dennis Schroeder era, we'll call it, that season, so Darko's first season team, didn't the Raptors go perfect in preseason? It may have only been 4 games, but I swear the Raptors went perfect one year and then had a horrible start to the season. So preseason doesn't mean much. Doesn't mean nothing, but doesn't mean much as well. Winner One says, what's up? Been a while. Nice to be back. Nice to have you back. Thank you for joining and ever present here. We have Naviata saying, going to be interesting to see who they choose for the rotation. Yes, indeed. It will be very interesting. I've talked a lot about it, so I don't want to kind of rehash all of that stuff I've discussed on that already, but it's going to become really difficult to pick 2 guys to not be in rotation, essentially, that I think will feel very aggrieved. I think those 2 players are going to be Mobo and Battle, and they're going to feel like, well, I should probably be in rotation, especially Mobo, who's been starting some games in preseason. Not everyone can get in rotation, though. So you got to manage those personalities and manage the talent. Nance Support Rose says, what do you think about Chucky Hepburn being? It's I'm going to go on it a little bit later. He was obviously very good in that Wizards game. From when they signed him as an undrafted free agent. He has really, really shocked me with how good he's been from my very, very low expectation. He was good in Summer League. He's been good in preseason. I don't know if it's enough to crack the rotation, but hey, that's going to be really fun player to have with the 905 probably. He'll be getting a lot of time with the 905. I think he's on a 2-way contract. Scottie, Raptor Champ says, Scottie's the only person I want to see. Sorry. And Yak. Well, if I was going to get it, I would have wanted to see all the starters, Or most of them. Some of them. 2 of them. Right? None of them is kind of crazy. Yeah. For being the first home game in months too, like damn. Yeah, I also didn't actually even think about that on there, but not only was it a home game for the Raptors, it was the first time in months they had played a game in Toronto, and they didn't play any of their starters. It just bad look. I think that was a bad decision. Preseason this from Phil Gaps. Preseason has told us that we are still troubled by threes. Some nights in Charlotte finishing near the rim most games. Yeah. So the 2 most important aspects of your offense: shooting threes and scoring at the rim. Everything else is just bonus. Sometimes it's actually the opposite. It's a negative, some of the other things to be doing. So, threes aren't really cooking, and at the rim isn't really cooking. That's not a good recipe for offensive production. Yeah, it's a problem. You're right. It's still a problem. Thankfully, they have a guy who can kind of, no pun intended, fill the gaps and get his own shot sometimes. I realize they don't care about the fans, especially how they treated Boucher, who was a fan favorite. I mean, I don't think they mistreated Chris Boucher. I think there were some games where they should have played him last season. I think I went to a game. Yeah, I did go to a game last season. I went to one, and I forgot about that game. I keep saying I haven't been to a game in years. I went to one last season. And it was a game after Chris Boucher played really well, and the Raptors were really struggling and were missing some guys, and they would not put in Chris Boucher. They wanted to get a look at guys they thought were going to be here longer term, but Boucher wasn't very good. He would have helped in some games. He wasn't very good, and the Raptors wanted to get better looks at some of the players they thought were here longer term. So kind of makes sense. Is Yak playing today? I'm not sure. And I actually haven't seen anything on Ulrich Shamshay. Let's see what the people are saying on this one. Jakob Poeltl. I haven't really seen anything. That he's still out with illness and the back problems. I haven't seen anything regarding tonight as of yet. And Ulrich Shamshay missed the latter stages of last season, which was really unfortunate because for himself, he would have gotten a lot of playtime, would have been very good development routes, but very unfortunate for us who were then subjected to suffering through either Orlando Robinson minutes or Colin Caston minutes, neither of which were at all good. So that was unfortunate. I haven't seen anything on Jakob Poeltl regarding tonight. If you have any information, send it over to the amateur army over here. As for Ulrich Shamshay, I don't see anything really either. But unfortunately not getting some really good developmental reps in for the player who has definitely had some promise. Definitely had some promise in the flashes we have seen him. Considering Boucher's got a minimum, we could have had quite some use from him on a minimum here. We gave the money to Mamu Kilishvili, and I think that's a type of player that we can get a little bit more out of. So I'm personally fine with the decision making. I was I was definitely ready to move on from Boucher when it got to it. I was ready to move. Do I have a prediction for the starting five tonight? I don't even know who's available, so I don't know. I would think, from what I see who's available, I would think it's going to be Barnes, Ingram, Quickly, Barrett, and Mobo. Would like to see Mamukashvili start with those guys. He started the last couple of games, but we'll just have to wait and see. But we kind of talked about it already today. Let's dive into Scottie Barnes. Well, actually, let's dive into let's talk about Brandon Ingram a little bit more, because like we've been saying, the Raptors have showcased in preseason that the problems are still quite evident from an offensive standpoint, where the spacing still isn't quite there, the three-point shooting still isn't quite there, the finishing at the rim still isn't quite there. Like, those are the two biggest components of your offense: how well you are going to finish the rim, how good of opportunities to finish the rim you're creating for yourself, how well you're spacing the floor, how well you're shooting the three ball. These are like the most important components of your offense. These are the most highly efficient shots. These are the best shots to take: three-pointers and shots to the rim. These are the shots you want to create for yourself. And it's still become quite apparent that even through preseason, which isn't everything, but it also isn't nothing, we've still seen with this team that there is a bit of a lack of ability to create those looks. Defensively, there's a lot of very good things that we've seen, and that's going to be the kind of driving force of the team. They're going to be a defensive-first type of team, but you still need to score. And when scoring has been problematic in the past for this team over the last few seasons, there hasn't really been a good go-to sort of answer. But I feel like we are finally in a position where that is absolutely changing with Brandon Ingram, and I think he's very much going under the radar. Give me your thoughts on Brandon Ingram in the chat, guys, as we kind of go through this. But I got a lot to say on this. Nandaz, you're going to be live for the game today. Unfortunately, not today. Sadly. But I think Brandon Ingram has flown a little bit under the radar over the last few seasons. And I think a big reason why is that he's playing with the New Orleans Pelicans, who have struggled in most of those seasons. They haven't had a good record in most of those seasons. And he's playing in a very competitive Western Conference. I think he's flown under the radar, and he's really played some all-star caliber ball over the last few seasons. Definitely, like, Brandon Ingram's definitely a player who is too good to have only made one all-star appearance, I think, in his career. I've thought about that for a while, and it's becoming even more glaring now playing with the Raptors. Like, it is just so refreshing to watch this Toronto Raptors team in the games with Brandon Ingram. And it's just so refreshing to have this style of player on the team. One that's just going to get his shots up, get his shots, and he's going to make them. He's been pretty efficient for the Raptors in preseason in his 2 games he's played so far. And just a style of play looks like he hasn't missed a beat after the lengthy absence due to injury. That was one of my big questions coming into the preseason, was how is Brandon Ingram going to look? Is he going to look healthy? Is he going to look ready to jump into this new team? Is it going to look like a seamless fit? Is it going to be streamlined in? All these questions about Brandon Ingram. And all of them have been answered very well by him so far. He doesn't look like the injury has hampered him in any way whatsoever. He's very much looked like he's fit in with this team very well. He looked like he fit in very well from the team right from the jump, right when they traded for him, and he was just, we heard him in media availability. We saw him with the guys on the bench in practices and stuff. It just looks like it's been great overall from Brandon Ingram. And the style of play, like, we've seen so many pockets where the Raptors are just unable to generate offense, unable to generate points. And I think a lot of those problematic areas are going to be alleviated this season, like I said, with Brandon Ingram's ability to get up shots and knock them down. Like, having a true bucket getter sort of figure for the team has been great. And like I said, I feel like he has gone tremendously under the radar as of late. I know that there are injury concerns with the player, and you have to keep that in consideration, absolutely. But he's only 28 years old. He already turned, his birthday September, so he's already turned 28 this year. We have him through his prime years with the Raptors. He's playing in a weaker Eastern Conference right now. I'd be a little bit disappointed at this point if there wasn't an All-Star appearance on the horizon for him in the next couple of seasons. The Raptors will have to have a decent record for him to do that, but this is definitely an All-Star caliber player the Raptors have gotten here, and they virtually traded away very little to make it happen. Like, they traded away, yes, a first-round pick. It was an Indiana pick for 2026. Granted, Indiana's injuries maybe have made that pick a little bit more valuable. That's not a very valuable first-round pick. That's going to be probably in the 15 to 20 range, I think, and I think that's being nice. It'll probably be more like 17, 18 to 23, but they gave away that alongside expiring salaries of guys they didn't want, like Kelly Olynyk and Bruce Brown. Like, the Raptors really did not give up much in order to acquire Brandon Ingram. And sure, they had to shell out a pretty penny in the offseason to get him, but $40 million to me felt like what Brandon Ingram should be getting. I thought that, like I said, this is a guy I had a lot of respect for. I thought he was even a max contract caliber player. The Raptors came under that. That seemed pretty good to me. Kind of made me look foolish when even Brandon Ingram's own agency essentially said the Raptors overpaid for him and nobody else would have paid him that much. But I feel really confident and comfortable having Brandon Ingram on this team, and I think there is a tremendous amount of talent there, and I think in this status of the current Eastern Conference, he is going to be such a good player for the Raptors. And as much as he's not like the centerpiece or maybe even the best player on the team, that is the number one player for your offense that you need to work around, because it's and I know it's only 2 games, but it is obvious from those 2 games in preseason that this guy can play. He's averaged 20 points in preseason, 2 games, so averages are what they are for 2 games. But he's at 20 points, 48% shooting from the field, 60% from 3, averaged 5 attempts from 3 in the 2 games, 2.5 assists, 3.5 rebounds. This is very obviously a tremendously skilled player who is doing this in just 23 minutes per game. Like, if we're scaling that up, like, this is absolutely a player capable of comfortably averaging 22 plus points, maybe even more for the Raptors. And that's just, like, super exciting to have. Foil in the chat says Ingram could be All-NBA third team this year. That isn't crazy to say. I don't think so either. I don't think he will get there. I think the Raptors record will have something to do with that. But it's not crazy to say he has the ability to do that. Phil Gabb says BI is our run stopper like Kawhi was. I completely agree. Like, those cold streaks, they're still going to be present for the Raptors, but I think they're going to be less often occurred because you have him who's able to get you out of that jam and get a bucket. And you can stick the ball in his hand and say, all right, save us. Get a bucket for us here. Nan in the chat says he's definitely got All-NBA, All-Star potential, but that depends on how Scottie plays. And we'll touch on that maybe a little bit later on in the stream as well, because Brandon Ingram has looked fine. I wouldn't say Scottie Barnes has, but Brandon Ingram looks like he's able to shape his game to whatever's around him, and he's been very open about his willingness to do that in media availability as well. Really feels like he's aged well as an NBA player. I think that this is a fantastic player for the Raptors to have, and I think that it is absolutely somebody that the NBA needs to stop sleeping on. You got to stop sleeping on Brandon Ingram. At this point, it feels like his stock is extremely low. I'd be buying here. I feel like we are at the low point right now of the Brandon Ingram stock. I would be buying up that stock. I expect to see a very positive season for the player, and that is going to be, from a fan standpoint, somebody who's watching like every game, that's going to be extraordinarily pleasing on the eye, and can only help the Raptors in their push to try and get to a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference this season. It is possible, and if it's going to happen, it's going to be largely, I think, on the shoulders of Brandon Ingram's offensive play. Very exciting. Very, very exciting to have a player like that in the mix here, guys. And hopefully the excitement is kind of going on to you guys as well. I'm a fun guy, says I feel it will be the opposite. Scottie will feed and eat off Ingram and be that All-NBA player, but both All-NBA was so sick. I mean, I don't think you're getting both. The thing for Scottie Barnes is he's we saw a lot of success from Barnes previously when he was playing with Siakam. That was his All-Star season. So I do agree that it should help Barnes' game a lot. Kind of the issue is so far it hasn't on offense. Barnes has been there in many other ways. We kind of look to the most recent preseason game against the Wizards where Barnes had 10 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. He was plus 22. But he was 3 of 11, and he was 0 of 3 from 3. So it's just like there's a lot of good in Scottie Barnes' game. That's clear. Defensively, playmaking-wise, energy-wise, that's been great. But the decision-making on offense is still leaving a bit to be desired. And I don't really want to use the excuse that he's like getting used to a new team here because there is a lot of the ball's going to his way a lot. He is still a big focal point for this team on offense, and Brandon Ingram should only alleviate some of the defensive constraints he's faced in the past with like the amount of pressure he's getting from defenders, how much they care about him. Like Brandon Ingram's acquisition can only really serve to help Barnes on offense. So I don't want to use the acquisition of Ingram as an excuse for why Barnes' offense hasn't really clicked in just the 2 preseason games for him so far. For Scottie, that first game versus Atlanta, how he attacks and scores will tell us a lot about the season. Yeah, we will learn a bit there. Atlanta won't be the friendliest matchup for the Raptors or really many teams. It's an extremely long team and talented defensive team, so that could lead to some issues as well. But I think we'll learn very early about his demeanor and where that's sitting. All right. We'll move on. I said I wanted to do this, and we are absolutely going to do this. But at the time, we're 4 games into preseason. We've seen a lot of action. It's small sample. We have seen quite a bit of action. So I do want to go through the entire Raptors roster and decide if their stock has gone up or it has gone down from preseason so far. And we're doing it with the help of a tier list I've created here. We've got all 21 players on the Raptors summer training camp, preseason, whatever you want to call it, roster. And it's pretty simple. Is their stock way up, stock down, stock way down, or are they neutral? So players who have met expectations or perhaps players who just haven't played enough for me to give a firm ranking as far as their stock is concerned. So Chucky Hepburn comes in number 1. This isn't a random order, so we'll just kind of see how it goes from here. Chucky Hepburn is a player that comes up first. And for Chucky Hepburn, he's an interesting one because when the Raptors signed him in, like right after the draft as an undrafted free agent, I saw what they were looking for. They had a player who was Defensive Player of the Year in his conference, who had a lot of talent defensively. They wanted to see if they could maybe shape his offensive game a little bit more for the NBA level. And I was thoroughly impressed with him in Summer League. I've been moderately impressed with him in preseason. He was particularly impressive in that game against the Wizards. What it will come down to for the player is how well he can shoot the 3 ball in the NBA. And the defense and poise has been there. The offense still has a little bit of work and ways to go. But on a 2-way contract, I think he will improve with that. Stock has gone up. We'll see if he can really crack down at a regular NBA role at some point in his career. But stock has gone up for Chucky Hepburn. What we have learned at the very least is that he can hang at the pro level in some minutes. Maybe not every day, but he looks like he can hang, and he doesn't look out of place. Next up, Garrett Temple. We haven't really seen him, so neutral. I mean, what else would Garrett Temple be? Jakob Poeltl. I almost like, so obviously he hasn't played, so it has to be neutral, but I almost like want to even put him stock up because we've seen the deficiencies on defense when he's not there. Like, for the people who don't rate Jakob Poeltl correctly, I ask you to watch the games he doesn't play because you realize how much the Raptors miss him. But I won't go as far as that. I will put him in neutral, but just having been able to keep that in mind. Grady Dick, unfortunately, has to go in the stock down category. I didn't enter preseason thinking that it was impossible for him to lose his rotation spot. It was always kind of in the back of my mind, like he could, and the defense would be a big reason why. But even his offense hasn't quite been up to snuff. And this is a player that his defense is not. His defense is going to keep him off the floor. It's his offense that has to go above that to justify playing him. And the offense just hasn't quite been there in preseason. And again, this is a small sample for all these players, so take it for what it is. We're just going off this small preseason sample. But I don't really think you can look at Grady Dick any other way than his stock has kind of decreased here. And I think he should be fearful of losing his rotation spot if it doesn't pick up. David Roddy, we haven't seen enough of, so I got to put him in the neutral. Elijah Martin, my opinions of him have not changed. Mamukelashvili, very up and down from his performances in preseason, but I think overall I've learned enough about Mamu to say that there is more than just like, yes, he's a big can shoot threes, and that's great, but there's a bit more there. He seems like somebody who's been pretty good at connecting the dots and playing a role with the team. I wasn't expecting that as much. So for me, his stock has gone up. Jamison Battle, I don't want to be unfair because he hasn't played a lot, but I was expecting him to really challenge Darko in trying to get into this Raptors rotation and try to really force him into a tough decision on who Darko's going to play out the gates to start the season. But he hasn't put that pressure on. I think it's become relatively easy to say he won't be in rotation. So for that reason, I do have to put him in stock down. It just has not quite been the level I was hoping for in preseason. Olivier Sarr, I didn't really expect anything out of him. So the fact that he's been able to do something makes me say, okay, I can put him in the stock up category. Ochai Agbaji, he's been good. I expect him to be good. He's done his thing. I don't think he's gone stock up in my eyes. Jamal Shed, I don't want to put too many in neutral, so I'll be harsh here. And he hasn't wowed me, really. Not that I expected Jamal Shed to necessarily wow me, but I thought there would be some sort of progression offensively for him, and he'd be contributing in those areas a bit more. And from preseason so far, unfortunately, he just hasn't. So I actually do think I have to put him in the stock down category. I wish I didn't, but I was expecting more on offense. We haven't gotten that. Jacoby Walter comes in. I think it might be the same. If he had kind of shown up a bit more, it would have been a lot easier to say he's going to be taking a bunch of Grady Dick's minutes this year. And Jacoby Walter started the last preseason game instead of Grady Dick, but yeah, it just hasn't been consistent enough or really good enough. So I think Jacoby Walter, and I was expecting quite a bit. Because of that, I do have to unfortunately say it's a bit of stock down. It's a bit of stock down for the player. Not way down, but it is a little bit down. Shopsy hasn't played, which is a shame. Colin Murray-Boyles comes in. So definitely stock up. Just how up? Am I going to go way up on Colin Murray-Boyles? I think I will. And part of the reason will be because I don't know if anybody else will go there. But I entered preseason thinking, will Murray-Boyles make rotation? Will he have to spend some time in the G League with the 905 to get up to this level? From preseason, he's looked like you got to have him in rotation because of how good he is. He's been so good defensively. He's been a great connecting piece on offense, and he's just shown a case a good level of skill in scoring. I will. I'll say his stock has gone at the highest of anybody here for me. So I think for that reason, I will put him in the stock way up tier. Now, a lot of this is, based on my expectation for the players. If you were expecting a good chunk out of Grady Dick, it would stock down. If you weren't expecting much out of Jamal Shed, you would keep him neutral. But based on my expectations, I was expecting Murray-Boyles to struggle to adapt a little bit, and he hasn't struggled. So it's stock way up for me. Jared Rhoden, not really enough information. And now Scottie Barnes. So this is unfortunate again. I don't like to put players here, but I really thought Scottie Barnes would come in with a very refreshed. The attitude's not the right word, but it kind of is a refreshed attitude offensively. Because a big complaint for me last season, I've talked about it so much, is the settling for bad shots in mid-range, contested mid-range jumpers. Scottie Barnes is so difficult to stop when he is aggressive and gets to the rim a lot. And in only 2 preseason games, granted, he hasn't shown that sort of fire to do that. And as much as he's been great in other areas, I was expecting that. I was expecting him to be great defensively. I was expecting him to be great as a playmaker. That's all been great. But I still am a bit concerned by his demeanor on offense and his shot selection and shot sense and shot diet, whichever terminology you want to use. So I do have to unfortunately say I was really thinking he'd kick on, and he hasn't quite yet, which will force me to put him in the stock down tier. RJ Barrett has been pretty good in preseason. It's been good amount of points. It's been your classic inefficient RJ. It's been not so great defensively. RJ Barrett has played exactly like you think RJ Barrett would play in a Raptors uniform so far. He's scoring. He's hitting some open threes. He's not super efficient. That's RJ. That's what he does. He's neutral. His stock has not gone up or gone down for me. Jonathan Mobo. Another one where I just expected more. I expected his game to be more polished. I expected his finishing at the rim to be a lot more refined, and it isn't. He's still quite erratic. The people who draw comparisons to Precious Achiuwa are becoming more and more correct, I think. It's just been a bit difficult for Jonathan Mobo. The game doesn't come easy for him. And it looks like that when you watch him play. He has to work for everything. It hasn't slowed down for him yet. Is he going to be the only player that goes stock way down? That's unfair. I wasn't expecting to crack rotation. He's done nothing to change that, but it's still like even less refined than I thought it would be. Yeah. Brandon Ingram, you know what? I think we'll have to put him. I already talked about him a lot on this stream today, but from a guy I was concerned how he would fit, how he would look after a lengthy injury in a new scene, new setting. He's been fantastic. He's looked like the exact type of player that this team has been missing for a long time. And that's exactly what I wanted out of him. I was concerned we wouldn't get that, but we are getting it. I think we're getting the highest level of Brandon Ingram we could have realistically expected. And I think that puts his stock way up. And I think the NBA's sleeping. I think the league needs to be put on notice for Brandon Ingram ahead of the season. AJ Lawson, I'll put him neutral because there hasn't been enough play for him. I could even be harsh and put him stock down just because he hasn't forced the hand of the team to play him more. But I think I'll put him neutral. And for Quickly, it hasn't been as good we would have wanted it, to be honest. He's adjusting, maybe coming back from the injury, but yeah, unfortunately, I haven't been overly impressed with his preseason so far. So my stock is a little bit down on him heading into the new season. I don't think anyone's stock has gone way down. Like, we don't have a Freddie Gillespie type or anything like that, but I think for me, a fair few have underwhelmed from preseason and have given me a little bit of a different perspective for the upcoming season. So we'll have to leave it at that. What do you guys think? Give me your thoughts in the chat. I think I could have maybe put Jared Rhoden up, but I don't think there was enough to change my outlook of the player, really. I've seen Jared Rhoden play like that. I've seen him do this I don't know. Greatest knockdown to fumble. He'll be contending for MIP this season. 4-1 says, I hope so, man. I hope I'm wrong, but he hasn't looked like that in preseason, that's for sure. Please don't look at those as season indicators. Well, this is stock up, stock down based on preseason. So it's the only indicator I'm using for the sake of this. And like anytime I talk about preseason, if I don't preface 400 times before every sentence I say, this is preseason, this is not completely indicative of the upcoming season, then people get angry. But yes, this is just a preseason list, but I understand it's just preseason as well. Nicholas McCracken says, this is all mix and match mode right now. Playing in practice and preseason is all experimental. Got to play at least once or twice against most teams to see. Again, the disclaimer, but also preseason is like for some of these guys, they're earning minutes, they're earning reps, they're earning a spot in rotation in preseason, earning touches. So as much as a bunch of this is experimental, a lot of people have to show up as well. And, you know, I can still say, like, just because I say Barnes hasn't been as impressive as I thought he would be in preseason doesn't mean he can't do that in the season. It's just, it makes me less, my expectation that he will rise above that diminishes for the regular season when I see the levels I didn't really want to see in preseason. He's averaging 12 points, averaging 18. He doesn't look comfortable. The game still seems fast for him. He's still very poor defensively. There is offensive talent there for sure, but it's been spotty and a bit inconsistent. Grady Grady definitely has been underwhelming to me. Scottie certainly didn't have an elite year and hasn't been great preseason, but geez, you're on some Scottie hate vibe now. Super. I don't really understand that at all. I still think he's a fantastic player. You know, if this is a list of who the best players in the Raptors are, he'd be number 1 on the list. But my expectations are very high of the player. I think, I think my expectations of the best player on the team are quite high. And when he enters preseason still showcasing some of these same problems that made last season underwhelming, it concerns me. So I think that's like a ridiculous comment. I think that's a complete ridiculous comment. He's been great in a lot of areas, but what made this season underwhelming was his shot selection last season and lack of desire and ability to get to the rim. Those same problems still being evident are concerning. That's it. I have definitely turned a bit. I'm not just gonna blindly defend a guy. Like if the on-court displays aren't up to what he is capable of doing, I'm not gonna be particularly enthused by that. So he has to be better. I think, like, are we all going to sit here and say, like, this is, if Barnes plays like this the whole season, we'll be satisfied? Absolutely not. If Jonathan Mobo played like Scottie Barnes is playing for the entire season, we'd be, like, our heads would explode. We'd be jumping out of the roof of our homes and in my case, apartments. We'd be going crazy. We'd be throwing a parade for him if Jonathan Mobo played like that. But different players require different expectations. And for Scottie Barnes, there is very high expectations for a player who is on a max contract, has been deemed the centerpiece of the team by many people within the organization. Like, we're no longer on rookie contract. Like, it's time to make the next step. And if the next step isn't here, patience is starting to diminish a little more on a year-to-year basis. IQ is neutral as Def has been better, and he has shown a little more versatility on-off. He got even 10 threes up in the game. I did like that he got 10 threes up against the Wizards, but he's never really felt like a $32.5 million point guard out there. He hasn't looked like, he's been a bit pedestrian at times. He hasn't stuck out. And again, it's a case of a player who I have very high expectations for. If Jamal Shed played anywhere close to that, it'd be stock way up. But we're dealing with a player who, I guess, in NBA, from an NBA wide perspective, he was underwhelming last season. You could say like, okay, it's been at least neutral this year in preseason so far based on that. But I never really bought into that. The discontent for Emmanuel Quickley from the last season. So maybe I'm entering with a bit of a higher expectation for Quickley than others, which is why I have him where he is down there. I think he's going to be elite. Scottie has heavy legs, naturally needs games to get to sure. And I'd be thrilled. I'd be so happy if we could do that, you know? Thomas Perry says, in my opinion, he's not a good floor general as of now. Shout out Thomas Perry, 12-month member joining us. He definitely has room for improvement. I think it goes a little bit underrated, but it definitely still needs to be better to be the lead point guard for this team. Thankfully, we have people who can kind of mask that. He's been tasked with playing a different role with the Raptors than maybe he's been accustomed to previously in the NBA. But also, it's been a year and a half with the Raptors now, so at some point we got to get used to that. And this is the position you're going to be playing. And if you're going to have a long, prosperous NBA career with your size, you'd be better served being in this position. So, yeah, there is room for improvement. I still think it can go a little bit. It doesn't get quite enough credit because he is good. It just needs it could still stand to be better. Absolutely. All right, guys, it is time pretty much to wrap. It's exactly 6 p.m. Eastern time. That has been your Raptors Happy Hour stream for Wednesday, October 15th. Coming up tonight, 7:30, Raptors are playing against Boston Celtics. Sadly, I play soccer Wednesday nights for the time being, so I am going to miss out on this Raptors game, sadly. So no watch party today. I think the stream might be crashing right now. Hopefully you can hear me today. Jay's also playing tonight at 8 p.m. Let's hope for a dub.